Mr. Blue wants to open his own business. Episode 6. Mr. Blue wants to better understand the Norwegian market, Part 2. In the last episode, Mr. Blue started to study the Norwegian market. He learned that Norwegians are getting older and living more alone in a total population that is growing mostly because of immigration. In this episode, Mr. Blue will further study the Norwegian market. Mr. Blue is now a big fan of the statistics from the Statistics Central Bureau. He knows that Norway is one of the richest countries in the world. So, before he continues his research about the Norwegian market, he discovered a few things about the Norwegian economy. GDP is a famous index used to compare economies in the world. If you divided the 2018 Norwegian GDP by its population, the GDP per capita, it is $65,511, almost 4 times the world average. At first an economy based on the exploration of agriculture, fishing, and animal farming, Norway became fully industrialized and now is very much dependent on the service sector. From the first discovery of offshore oil until today, the oil industry became more important. Employees who once worked in factories were little by little transferred to the construction sector and to the oil and gas extraction. As the state got richer with the revenues from the oil industry, it could hire more people to work in the health and educational sectors. The Norwegian welfare state grants its citizens free education and almost free health services. All these economic numbers and charts made Mr. Blue confused. He is not very clear of how this information can help him decide which kind of new business he is going to open. After some more research, Mr. Blue found a list of all the new companies opened in Norway in 2018. Almost all of the new enterprises established in Norway in 2018 are in the tertiary sector, the service sector. Of course, Mr. Blue can open a factory or a construction company, but he's not an engineer. So, by looking at the Norwegian new productive structure, he's almost sure his company is going to be related to services. He will come back to this chart in the next episodes. Here are Mr. Blue's next conclusions. The structure of the Norwegian economy changed completely in the last few decades. Now, 80% of it is based on services. As most of the newly established companies are in the service sector, Mr. Blue sees a strong demand there. In order to go through such great change, the Norwegian society needed more educated workers. Such change, discovered by Mr. Blue, reflected in the salaries of the people in Norway. In the last 50 years, the average Norwegian salary, without considering the inflation of the period, more than doubled, from 250,000 kroner to 550,000 kroner per year. Higher salaries mean higher costs for the new companies of Mr. Blue. But he's happy because in the whole of society, people have more money to buy what they want. This is good for companies. When looking at the different monthly salaries in Norway, Mr. Blue discovered that people with the best jobs make no more than 2 times the salary of the people with the lowest paying jobs, which are very high compared to the rest of the world. This is very important in Norway. Everybody should receive a fair pay. Mr. Blue likes it a lot. Such big salaries in a society where both men and women work makes the total income of the families very high, one of the highest in the world. This is very good for the households and for the companies that sell to them. With high salaries, the consumption of the Norwegian households more than tripled since 1958. People buy more, and the companies sell more. More conclusions by Mr. Blue. Norwegians have a high level of education. In Norway, this means higher salaries for everybody. With a higher salary, the families can buy more things. This is good for the whole society. Now Mr. Blue understands why the Norwegian society is so rich. Everybody receives a very good salary, even if they have simpler jobs. When people have more money, they can buy more things. This is very good for the companies that sell to them. But what do people buy in Norway? We will see it in the next episode, the last part of the market analysis.